Bangladesh is a country that tragically should be much more successful than it is. It has a lot of the advantages that could have made it a rapidly developing economy: global trade routes, a low debt to GDP ratio, access to oil, and a dense population. It even adopted the Westminster legal system, something that is loved by international investors and recognised worldwide for conducting business fairly. It had everything in place to be an economic powerhouse in a rapidly developing region, but yet it isn't. Despite all of these advantages, it's still on the UN's least developed country list. Bangladesh is a country of immense opportunity, which could easily become one of the largest industrial powers in Southeast Asia, but to understand what it would need to do to make that a reality in the future, and what has held it back in the past, we must as always answer a few simple questions. So, what were the factors that should have made Bangladesh a much more successful economy than it currently is? How did Bangladesh miss these opportunities? And is there anything it can do to turn this around and live up to its potential? Okay, now it's time to put Bangladesh on the Economics Explained leaderboard. Starting as always with size, Bangladesh has a GDP of $460.2 billion US, which makes it the 35th largest economy in the world, just behind Singapore and just ahead of Iran. It gets a 7 out of 10. That GDP is impressive for a low-income country, but spread out over a population of 171.1 million people, which means that its GDP per capita is only $2,668, way below the global average of $12,235. The opportunities are there, and its growth is steady, but for now, Bangladesh gets a 3 out of 10. Stability and confidence are probably better than what most people expect, and while the country has sustained stable GDP growth for nearly all of its existence, despite government issues including corruption, it has been a consistent trade partner with countries a continent away. Long term, Bangladesh is going to need to clean up these issues in order to achieve export diversification in both goods and trade partners, but for now, it gets a 5 out of 10 as it navigates an uncertain decade ahead. Growth has been strong, almost tripling in size in the last decade thanks to favourable trade agreements that make it a low-cost and duty-free exporter for certain trade partners. However, that isn't sustainable because those agreements expire when Bangladesh graduates from the Least Developed Countries Index. But for now, it gets a 10 out of 10. Finally, industry. Its comparative advantage in ready-made garments relies on labour-intensive manpower that is cheap and exports to countries far from its borders. It needs to diversify its exports to support a shift to a capital-intensive economy that develops new technologies, and find more trade partners closer to its borders to support that transition, which it is starting to, but not just yet. So, a 5 out of 10. Altogether, that gives Bangladesh an average score of 6 out of 10, a respectable result thanks to its strong growth that puts it here on the leaderboard.
Considered a link between the Middle East and Africa, and a waypoint on world shipping routes, Djibouti is a country of geostrategic importance. In recent years, it has experienced strong economic growth driven by industry, services and port activity in the Bab al-Mandab Strait, which is the gateway from the Indian Ocean to the Red Sea and onto the Suez Canal. Trade through the port of Djibouti is expected to grow rapidly, in parallel with the economic expansion of Ethiopia, the country's main neighbour and major trading partner. Djibouti has a diverse natural environment with great potential for tourism and aquaculture, particularly the expansion of its fishing fleet. In addition, existing undersea telecommunications infrastructure could be leveraged to develop new digital services. Renewable energy could also become a source of growth for the country, given its geothermal, solar and wind potential. The country's economy relies on a number of external factors to support growth. These include Ethiopian trade flows passing through Djibouti, growing trade with China, and the capacity for the country to attract a mix of foreign investors in the construction of an operational deep water oil and container terminal at Darala in the Gulf of Tajura. Following the COVID pandemic in 2020, economic activity slowed, but GDP growth picked up in subsequent years to reach 2.5% in 2022, compared to 4.8% in 2021. Djibouti's economy is expected to recover steadily in the medium term, supported by investment from both private and state sector enterprises, including the development of the Damajog Industrial Park project, new fuel storage facilities, and an oil terminal. A number of changes springing from the 2022 finance law look set to improve the country's finances as well as its business environment. These include new measures to increase revenue collection through the revision of income tax brackets, the reduction of the VAT threshold, and the payment of a single tax by companies established in free zones. This, alongside other reforms and initiatives to further diversify the economy and attract higher levels of foreign direct investment, are outlined in the second National Development Plan, and in particular the Djibouti ICI programme, all of which are expected to support GDP growth going forward, which is set to accelerate to 5.3% in 2023 and 6.2% in 2024. As part of Vision 2035, the government created a sovereign wealth fund, the Fonds Souverain de Djibouti, or FSD. The fund's mission is to contribute to rapid economic diversification, as well as inclusive and sustainable social and economic development, as well as prosperity. The FSD invests in projects with a high potential for economic growth and job creation in priority sectors. One of its missions is to increase investment and develop economic partnerships, both with national and international private sector companies in the Horn of Africa region.